Hey, Sean, I wanted to talk about the biggest problem I see myself make as a video producer, and that I see my peers and my colleagues make, and especially that I see beginners to video production. The same mistake we all make. I wanted to talk about what that mistake is, why it's actually a problem, and then what to do to fix it. So the mistake is rushing. We rush things. That's the problem. The mistake that we make is we rush things, and it happens for so many reasons. Sometimes it's because we mess up or gear malfunctions. A lot of times it's the client's fault, where people are late or people are doing an interview and they can't get words out right and it takes 10 times longer than they said it would. These sort of things get you behind schedule, and then you start to rush. And in that rushing, that's when the real problems happen. So it's not that we're rushing, but because we're rushing, there's two areas to make mistakes. And the first and the easiest to see is technically. And if you're a camera operator and you're moving quickly and like, oh, you're shooting at this side of the room and then we're going to film this other interview, we're just going to move it over here. You can forget that maybe your exposure changed a tiny little bit. Maybe maybe you switched to B-roll and you didn't switch your frame rate to be filming at 60 or 120 and you're still filming at 24 frames a second. There's all these little mistakes, and these are the things that I see in my own work. After a day that gets out of control, I'll go back and I'll look at the footage. I'll be like, oh my gosh, this wasn't in focus. We moved things. Or I'll say, oh my gosh, I never switched the camera into high frame rate. I never checked the exposure. I didn't switch the white balance from when we were inside to when we're outside. And I'm making these mistakes not because I don't know to check the white balance, but in rushing and in being in that different mind space, I forget about the things that are very much habits of somebody who's been doing this for a long time. And the other side of mistakes that can be made is not on the technical side, but with the project direction. And this is the big one, because if you're running out of time, you have to choose, you have to cut interviews, you have to ask less questions. This is the time where things start to rush and people just start to say, like, that's probably good. We got something there. And we forget what the final product needs to look like sometimes. And the client especially will step in and say, I don't think we need this. And in the moment, everything's so rushed, you're like, I don't have the time to argue about this. Like, oh, okay, yeah, we'll be fine without that. And then you get back to the edit bay and you say, wow, I really wish I had that piece. Why did I let them talk me out of that? And so that lack of direction is what causes problems, that and the technical issues that come from rushing. So to fix this, it's twofold. One, I make checklists. And even the best doctors in the world will make checklists, because when things are going crazy with trauma and whatever triage is happening in an emergency room, making sure that you're doing everything that, even though you know you're a professional, you could teach someone how to do it, we forget things. We make simple mistakes. And so I have a little card that I keep in my camera bag. I have a lot of these and I give them to people I work with. But anytime we move the camera, we go down these 10 things. We check the format, we check the frame rate, picture profile, white balance, exposure with the aperture, shutter speed, and ISO, framing, and focus. And so anytime we move the camera, we go down this list just to make sure that in the rush of things, we don't forget something. But the biggest thing beyond a checklist that you can do to avoid making the mistake of rushing is not to plan ahead to make sure that everything's taken care of, but it's just to be ready to be rushed. And that's the mistake that I make a lot of times, is I do pre-production very carefully and I try to account for everything and have backups for gear in case things malfunction or stop working, whatever the case may be. But somehow I'm always surprised when things go crazy, as they always do. I'm thrown off and then I'm in this scrambling mode. And sometimes you think it's fun and it's just like, oh, we got a couple shots that were awesome, even though things were going crazy. But the truth is, if you can keep your composure, you can do so much better of a job, both technically and creatively, by just having that composure. And that comes from understanding when you go into the day, remind yourself, write it down somewhere, put it in your camera bag, put it on your slate, your clipboard, say, hey, things may get out of hand today, but I need to remember to keep a focus on the direction and the technical specifications. And if you do that, and if you can bring yourself back to check yourself and say, hey, I need to make sure I'm doing everything right with my cameras, and I need to make sure that I'm doing everything right with my direction and the overall focus of the project. If you can do that, you're going to make better projects every time, and you're going to be a lot more fun to work with because you're not going to lose your head and be in scramble mode. As I'm sure I have been less than a pleasure to work with from time to time. I do my best, but we all make mistakes. And this is the mistake that I finally noticed why it's the problem and what's the problem. And it's not that, oh, we forgot to check the focus, we should check the focus next time. It's that we forgot to check the focus because we were rushing, because we weren't mentally ready to be rushed. And so get yourself ready, set yourself up at the beginning of the day, and then maybe take a couple breaks, put them on the schedule to say, we need to just reset our minds a little bit to make sure that we're focused on the project and we're focused on all the individual roles that we need to make this project succeed. That's all I got. Thank you so much for watching this. I sincerely appreciate it, especially if you made it this far. It truly means a lot to me that you would share your time with me like that. If you're into videos like this, you're welcome to subscribe, but my channel's all over the place, and so if you're not into this kind of stuff and weird stuff all the time, maybe it's not a good idea to subscribe, but that's it for this video. See you later, bye.